Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Kraft. My website is stephaniecraft.com. I am an energy healer, a hypnotherapist, and I work with twin flames. And I've been doing this work for many years. And if you want to know more about that, you can check my website, stephaniecraft.com, and my YouTube channel is Stephanie Kraft. And I'm here with...
This is Patricia Sunshine.
This is Okolo.
From Elite Couples
for Life, and we can be found at elitecouplesforlife.com.
Great. It's so nice to be with you both today.
Wonderful to be here. I don't even know if we said, Stephanie and I went to high school together.
Yes, we did. We went to junior high and high school together, right?
That's right.
So that was like 6 years of, being in the same schools and hanging around with all the same people. I think you and I know we were in homeroom together in high school. Were we also in junior high? I don't remember.
You're the wrong person.
But we did swim together on the swim team.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah, so Okolo and I grew up in DC, and that's where we went to school. And we didn't stay friends all these years in our adult life, but we reconnected later in life through social media. How, yay, everybody gets to do that, like searching for your old high school friends. So that's how we reconnected. And Patricia and Okolo are twin flames. And I'm going to ask you a few questions. When did you guys meet?
February 2018.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. So yeah, just a little introduction about this video. We're going to be talking about all things twin flames and exploring a little bit about your relationship, how you came together, and and then how it's been so far. But I have a question about what did each of you do you think, to individually prepare yourself before you ever met, so that when you met, you were able to figure out how to be on the same page?
Right.
You should definitely go first.
Okay, so I did go through a period of isolation that was pretty much brought on by a few events that were very painful in my life, and I didn't know any other way to cope, and I was just tired of outside influence. And all my life, someone has been telling me what to do, and but I realized at some point that a lot of it just was most people's opinion, but I took it as rules or just expectations, and after a while, it was just overbearing, and I saw that, not everyone took the advice that they give. And so I just felt like I went into a sort of tailspin, just not knowing what to do next, and just feeling hurt and confused. And it just seems like a lot of things that I believed previously, I had a lot of questions. And I just knew that I needed some time alone. I am an empath and a highly sensitive person. And so what that means is I need a lot of time to recuperate and to cleanse my energy and to just shake things off. And so that's what I did. I went into a period of isolation and healing. And I did turn to some things to read that I could get insight from. And but mostly it was just a self-guided journey, and it lasted around 5 or 6 years. And I had really small children at the time. They were all under 5, and I was homeschooling. So I was really able to shut myself off from the world, and it was much needed. So that's how I started my journey of healing.
So my journey, it's interesting. I've been on a journey, I would say, a spiritual journey since I was 19 years old. And that journey has at different times gone in different directions. Mm-hmm. But that spiritual journey has never included love. And so I got to a point, married, have 4 wonderful kids. Patricia has 6. Funny story to tell you about that in a second. But, so I had been sort of doing this work at different times. And I got to the point in the love department where I just gave up. And I said, you know what? I could think of, at that point, 2 couples that I knew that had made it to the duration. So my parents' age, in their 70s or so, made it to 50 years. And of that age, I didn't know very many people who still appeared to be in love. Let me clarify. Right. There's lots of people who can make it 50 years, right, but who still appear to be in love. I've seen other examples, people married for 40, 50 years. And, the most positive thing that they might say to each other is, where's the salt? And I'm like, okay, well, they might still be together, but why? So anyway, so I had sort of given up on love. And I think in not seeking, but still sort of doing work on myself, I was able to attract Patricia. And I think that's a distinction that we make, is the difference between, looking for or seeking your twin flame, right, and receiving or being open to or attracting your twin flame.
Yeah.
And I bet, I'm going to take a guess. Did either of you know what twin flames were before you met?
I didn't. Well, I think I probably heard of twin flames maybe the day that we met.
What? You never told me that.
Yeah. So, okay. So Okolo and I, when we met, I don't want to get too far without, get too far ahead, but I felt such a strong connection while we were chatting, and he said everything that I needed to hear about spirituality, his goals for the future, and we were so well lined up, and we have similar paths, or in the past, like our lives have been parallel. So he was speaking my language, and he had done a lot of the different types of work that I had practiced, working in the financial services industry. We both worked in the insurance industry. And I was into spirituality, like learning about the chakras and things like that. And so when we...
And fitness.
Fitness
is huge for both of us.
And so everything he said, it was like, wow, we have a whole lot in common. And I also, I am not driven by money. So the way we got connected was he was offering an opportunity, a business opportunity. So I was interested in a business opportunity, but even when I realized that not so much the one he had to offer, I was still interested in talking to him, because I could tell he has a soul that where money is not the most important thing, And so, he was talking about making money and changing your life forever. And I'm listening to him like, I hear you. I hear what you're saying about the money, but I'm interested in the spiritual side.
I don't know if you remember saying this. The one thing I specifically remember you saying was, we were talking, and then I made some comment, and you were like, you know what? I knew there was more to you spiritually than just the money.
Right.
That was said very early on.
I did say that. So when we got off the phone, I went and did a search. I was like, maybe he's my soulmate. And so I was reading, and then when it started saying anyone can be your soulmate, it could be a sister, a mother. I was like, and then I read the description. It just said someone who understands you. I was like, this seems like more than that. And so I just kept searching, and then I saw twin flames. And I read, I was like, wow, that seems like us. Like, I immediately felt love for him, And funny thing is, the first day we spoke on the phone, he said, I love you, before we hung up. And I hung up, like he said at the tail end. It was our first conversation after texting. Like, we were just on the phone, and before he hung up, he said, I love you, but I was already clicking. And I heard it. I was like, did you just say that? So then he called me back and he tried to explain. He said, I don't know if you heard me, but I usually tell people that I love them when I feel close to them. So I hope that didn't scare you. It's like he didn't plan it, but he felt it. And I was like, this is so weird because I feel like I love you too. I believe I told him that same day. You know, so it was our first encounter over the phone where we knew we loved one another.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That kind of left me speechless because that's so beautiful. And I can't even remember the question I had asked you that led up to that answer, but
Have we heard of twin flames? Right,
oh,
right.
yeah.
So, I mean, I had never heard of twin flames. She told me about it, and I'm going to be honest. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Maybe. And another thing I say, you know, I mentioned about my travels with spirituality. You know, my faith comes and goes. Sometimes it's very strong. Sometimes it's non-existent. Sometimes it's just sort of like, okay. That was how my feelings about twin flames were. Sometimes I was like, yes, we're definitely twin flames. I'm like, man, I don't even believe in spirituality. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in energy. I don't believe in anything. Yeah. So therefore, twin flames can't be true.
Right.
So I had those fluctuations over the past 2 years. But I would say, so when we first met, relatively quickly, she moved from South Carolina to Massachusetts. We started living together in a two-bedroom apartment with my cousin and her 6 kids.
So we had a lot of time to get close.
Yeah, we got real close real fast. The other interesting thing about this, and I don't know if you've heard this story elsewhere, when we met, you know, as you said, I was promoting a business, I was working, I was being successful. When she came into my life, everything stopped.
Yeah, literally.
Literally. We spent 24 hours a day together.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't leave to go to work.
Yeah.
And my work at the time was outside the house.
He would not leave.
Hold on. She says I would not leave.
He would not leave.
But she didn't want me to leave. She'd be like, can you? A lot of it was obviously they had just moved, so we had to like prove residence and get the kids in school. Like it was right in the middle of a school semester. And so we were, you know, she was like, can you help me? And can you come to town hall with me? And can you so don't let her say it was all me. Not working. No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that there has always been like a strong desire to be together. And it has been from the beginning. That's why it's important for us to find work that we can do together, you know, or at least work that we can do from home, you know. And that's what we're doing now. Like we're on that journey right now. And it is like I only work a part-time job outside of the home, and it's very hard to leave because we want to be together all day long. Like I didn't think that was possible or healthy at first, but you know, like, well, it is what it is. You know, I hate to see him leave, and he hates to see me leave, and it's just been a connection, you know.
Wow. And then when you came together, well, wait, so Okolo, you were saying you were just kind of all over the place, back and forth with the twin flame thing. What made you realize that you really were twin flames?
Right. So, what I started saying was, thank you for helping me pick up my train of thought. So when we first met, she immediately moved up to Massachusetts. Hold on a second.
Sure. Is that happening?
Yeah. Okay. So as I stopped working, stuff happens when you stop working.
Right.
Money stops flowing. At that moment, I was not wealthy.
Right.
I lost the apartment. My cousin had to move out. We both became homeless. So at sort of the very last minute, she was able to find an apartment that was essentially like a homeless shelter, but it was just simply an apartment. Right. So it was a 3-bedroom apartment, but I wasn't able to stay there. So I stayed with a friend for a while. Actually, at that point, a friend of mine had a room, you know, I don't even know what you would call it, a boarding house. Not even a studio. Yeah, like a studio or room. No, it wasn't even a studio because there was no bathroom. It was a shared bathroom on the floor. Mm-hmm. So I was staying with him, sleeping on his floor, on his dirty floor. Let me clarify that. Mm-hmm. But I love him if he's watching. He's one of my best friends. But his floor was dirty. He didn't deny it. He couldn't deny it. So I was sleeping on his floor. So anyway, the point that I was making was the point when I really started to realize it. So we spent about the past almost year and more year and a few months, year and a half maybe, homeless to some degree or another. Right. Or maybe a year. We spent about a year homeless. Wow. I spent it a little. And so I would come and visit her at the apartment, but I wasn't supposed to be there. So I had to sort of sneak around and whatever. And then the person that I was staying with had his own issues and so it just got to the point where he threw me out too many times. Right. And either threatened to call the police or did call the police, that I said, I can't stay here anymore. Mm-hmm. So then I actually moved into a homeless shelter. And then he moved into came into some money, moved into a really nice apartment, invited me to stay with him, and I stayed with him. And then that didn't go well, and I moved back to the homeless shelter. So anyway, so I spent a time for about a year or so in a homeless shelter. She spent time, and so recently she got her own apartment, and I decided to not be in the homeless shelter anymore and decided to move in with her. So I'm not sure if it was sort of, I think at that point I was still sort of like, I was still sort of like, oh, you know what? I just know that I have to just take the leap. I just have to jump off this bridge and see what happens and see if I fly. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really what, you know, has solidified it in my mind that there is absolutely no doubt. I mean, there are times when we literally will do something like, you know, go reach up and we'll both reach up to like scratch our eyebrow, and we'll both just reach up, you know, at the same time and just go like, you know, like she might go like this on that eyebrow, you know, go, and I do on that, and it's just like, did you just see that? You know, we breathe in sync. Right. We do same actions and things. We think the same way. We speak. I can't deny it now because the evidence is just everywhere.
Yeah, and I did watch one. Oh, go ahead, Patricia.
I was going to say that I think Okolo, he sort of did struggle with the concept, or not so much the concept, but the wording, twin flames. And so since he had not, it's like he's more scientific. There has to be evidence and proof or a scientific explanation. And so although like from the dictionary term or the different ways you can prove your twin flame, they've always been there, all the signs, all along. But I think he more so just struggled with adapting it for a term that he wants to use and identify with. But, you know, just from what we know about twin flames, we've always had all the signs. But I think I've studied more, and I was more like of a promoter. And like me, when I don't like just drop the topic easily. So, and plus I already know like what I know, and all I have to do is see proof, you know? And so I don't struggle with everything else that comes with it, because I just say facts are facts.
The other thing, the last thing I'll say quickly about when you accept twin flames, there's a lot more that you accept. Right. You accept the unknown. You accept energy. You accept souls. You accept reincarnation.
Right.
You
That means a
accept
lot.
you accept the fact that, okay, well, it says in lots of the things that it says that twin flames will find each other and actually make it work in their last lifetime. So they reincarnate multiple times, and they might, one might be a father, one might be the son, but, it obviously can't be romantic. At least this is what I've heard. You can tell me, you can clarify certainly, because I think a little bit, at least you know more than I do. But anyway, the point is that when you accept the concept of twin flame, there is so much more that comes with it. It's not just like, oh yeah, you're my good buddy. Like, no, you're my good buddy, and we've known each other for millions of years. Like, what?
Right. And just to say, I mentioned this to you before, but I want everybody to know this. I watched 2 of your videos yesterday. And I think one was called How to Find Your Twin Flame. The other one was about how you have so much in common. And by watching both of those videos, I know that you're twin flames because of the things that you explain in those videos about how how the 2 of you are so similar. And it's completely like the story of how twin flames are. And then about the last lifetime, I don't believe that, because we have had so many lifetimes with our twin flame already. So it's not about finding each other in the last one. It's having many lifetimes together in a variety of ways, right? Parent, child, brother, sister, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, things like that. Or, boyfriend, girlfriend, things, any which way, right? So I think that each lifetime is probably a decision between the 2 of, what do you want to learn? What do you want to learn? Okay, let's go do this.
Yeah,
Vary.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think we both, I've known for at least since I was 19 that, like, I wanted to really get my stuff together this time, whatever. I wasn't thinking of it in terms of lifetimes, but I was committed to, finding what I would call the ultimate balance, or what the Egyptians called ma'at. So we're both committed to that.
Right. Yeah.
And so, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the problems we've had, but when things get rough, like, we both remember and we remind each other that okay, I'm committed to this, you're committed to this, whatever we're dealing with, we have to work out.
Right.
And we do, and we move on.
So I did want to ask, but before I move into that, we didn't double check before we started this video about like how it's appearing on the screen. And you know how Zoom can have different, like mine is looking like I'm at a little box above and you're a big box below. Is that what you see also?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we can get it a little bit balanced, like that. Okay. Is that side by side?
No.
Oh, what is it like now?
It's still the same. You're big and we're small.
Okay. Well, I think this is the way where whoever's speaking probably shows up on the screen.
Oh,
anyway, I just wanted to see if it was going to be better for the people watching this the other way, but it's hard to know on this end how it appears on the other end. It's fine. I'm sure it's fine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Doesn't matter.
We'll find out. So the next question is, but I work with a lot of twin flames, and almost all of them, most of them they've met their twin flame. There was a lot of difficulty, and they are in separation, and they're not maybe communicating, or maybe once in a while, or there are periods of separation. It's just a very difficult road. Obviously, the 2 of you are together, but did you have those episodes of, separating and challenge, and what were they like, and how did you come back together?
I think they happened maybe like once or twice or 3 times or 4 times or 10 times or 15. I lost count. I lost count. But, you know, she would either tell me, I'm not getting what I want. I'm not getting what I need. You know, and I'd be like, well, yeah, screw you. And I'd hang up the phone. And then I'd call her back, you know, and one time she blocked me. And so I couldn't text her and I couldn't call her and I couldn't do anything. But, you know, because we, you know.
He just showed up.
You know, hey, you know what? I happen to know her Apple password. So I used Find My iPhone. And I showed up at Six Flags unannounced.
Oh, my God.
And her kids were like, huh? And she was like, huh? And all she could do was just give me a big hug. That's all she could do. She couldn't even be mad anymore.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, but there's so many times when, you know, I just thought, I can't take this anymore, you know, because I'm very rigid and structured, and Okolo, he is too, sort of, but he has more leeway, you know, like he has more, I don't know if you want to say wiggle room, but like I just have to have things a certain way. I have to count on things, rely on things. I constantly say, well, I have 6 children. I can't just live on a whim, you know. But, you know, I've been somewhat whimsical, but it's just that Okolo was so far away, and I was here in a town that I didn't intend on going to.
Oh, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
We were living
In
Andover, 10, 15 minutes away from my kids.
Right.
She, when they placed her in an apartment, moved an hour and a half away.
Right.
So
that was
really hard. And so what kept me in the shelter was the distance away from my kids and not wanting to be more than 10 or 15 minutes away.
Right.
And so that was it was really difficult to move an hour and a half away.
And you were not on my lease. So that
Right.
was he had something that he was focusing on his children, and I was focusing on compliance. You know, it was just one of those situations. So we wanted to see one another, but the distance and the regulations, it was like we made a way, which was usually a few days a week while my children were in school, or, you know, whatever we had to do, we still did to see one another. But I moved to Massachusetts with hopes of being with him and us doing this whole child rearing thing together. And so I think while he was in the shelter, he was kind of taking the load off and finding some peace, you know, with the situation. But in the meantime, I'm all the way in Springfield, Mass, by myself with my 6 children in an unfamiliar place. And, you know, things happen, you know.
Car breaks down.
You know, just things where I felt like, well, if he can't be there for me like I need him to, then I might as well be by myself, you know. And then it was a lot of accountability where he would always say, want to know everything I'm doing at all times. And I say, you know what, if you can't be here, then you don't have the right to know what I'm doing, you know. So I was kind of booting him out of my life, kicking him out. And I thought, you know, I was here for a year and a half before he decided to move here. But there are a lot of trying times in between. So I thought, you know, I might as well start dating other people. That's what I thought, you know. I'm like, why should you be an hour and a half away, keeping tabs on me, telling me what to do, constantly asking all my business? You know, I said, well, I'm not involved in what your day-to-day life is. You just living it, and I'm living my life here. It was just too overwhelming for me to try to juggle everything and be accountable to him. So, but we already knew we wanted to be committed and stay committed. So I had the thought of maybe trying to date other people, but I never exercised it. And then he didn't make it any easier because he kept calling me, popping up. I'm like, he just won't go away. So I couldn't get away from him, but I did miss him terribly, like tremendously. So whenever he did show up, and it was never long because we still saw one another twice a week. Somehow, even after I broke up with him 5, 6, 7, 8 times. I'm like, aren't we supposed to broken up? Like, why you keep showing up here?
Yeah, there was never a week. Maybe there was one week where we only saw each other once, but for the whole time after we left the first apartment, we've been able to figure out a way to see each other at least 2 to 3 times a week. And then now, of course, we live together.
And you're in Massachusetts still.
We're still in Massachusetts, an hour and a half away from my kids, but we're now looking for a house closer to my kids.
Right.
So that we're at least, I would like to be around within 30 minutes of them. Because, even though I've been divorced for 11 years now, 10 years, I've always made a very, very big effort to be a part of my kids' life. And I, coach soccer and, took, even now during this crazy Rona time, I take them to the beach and we go for the sunset and, wherever we can go where there's a big open space and we're allowed to go, we go. So it's not the activities that we used to do before. But anyway.
And so I think we heard of a term called chaser and runner. And I don't know if you know anything about that, but I think we've done a lot of that.
Yes, it's so interesting how many times you've broken up, but it sounds like those breakups were short-lived each time.
Oh, yeah, like 6 hours, 12 hours. If she blocked me, it might go to like 18, but if it went that much further than that, I was getting in the car. I was already on my way.
Oh my goodness. And how are your kids, do they all get together? Do they get along?
So when we lived together in Andover, they did. Little bit of an adjustment.
Some of them went to the same school.
Some of them went to the same school. But there was a little bit of an adjustment. And so since she's lived in Springfield, they've not seen each other. And actually, Tricia hasn't seen them either, my kids. But we're in the process now of starting that reintroduction process. I am a little bit impulsive, and I think I did it too fast and expected, them to be like, whoa, daddy's happy, so I'm happy.
Exactly.
Like, well, daddy's got a new family, might be their perspective, and I'm not happy. So,
wow.
So dealing with all of that, and we haven't, that's sort of the next phase of working through this. And, the first stage of it, actually last night was talking to one of my daughters, the one who's an empath, and she said, I asked her, I said, so what do you think about seeing Tricia again? She was sort of like, she hesitated, and she's like, well, it would be okay. And I think she did sort of go through that mental process of like, well, I'm not really excited about it, but I think she's now mature enough at 14 years old to say, you know what, well, yes, this does make my dad happy. And, I do want him to be happy. So, yes, let me give this at least a try.
Yeah.
I think was sort of the, I'm an empath too. So that's what I got from her.
At first, my children, they were really excited to meet Okolo because I shared the time with him. Like when we FaceTimed, I introduced my children to them and they got to know him and they were looking forward to meeting him. But he was like a fantasy man pretty much. But once we all came and moved in, they were like, you know what, he is not my daddy.
Especially with nine people in a 2-bedroom house, in an apartment. Yeah. 9 people in a 2-bedroom apartment.
It was hard,
that's tense in the best of situations.
So that's been a challenge for us. And with me moving here, and like there's no place I'd rather be because I came here to be with him, And so it's like he's unavoidable in my children's lives because if I'm going to be with him, then my children are always with me, And so he's always around my children, and it isn't easy. They're coming around, but it's been a lot of friction, And my children, they're very private, and they've always wanted pick for me, like who I would be with romantically, you know. But they liked him, but then when he became an authority figure in their lives, they rejected him. And, you know, and then they had to spend a lot of time when we were in Andover forcefully with his children, you know. And I think his children felt the same way. It's like, wait a minute, who said we want to be the Brady Bunch? Why are you trying to force us on one another? You know, and so I think it was a relief to go away for a while and to let them grow up, because it has been 2 years and children change a lot in 2 years, you know. So now I have 3 teenage daughters and 3 sons. He has all girls and 3 of them are teenagers, pretty much. Yeah, so we have the age difference was, anyways, it was very challenging.
One thing I alluded to earlier, so when I was having kids, my ex-wife or wife at the time used to always say, you know, I think we started talking about it when we were at 2 kids. We were like, okay, we've got 2 kids now. We've got 2 girls. How many kids do you want? And I used to always say 10. And and she used to say, yeah, right. You can have 10 by yourself. And so, you know, and then we had 3. And we were like, okay, we've got 3 girls. And there was never a point when we were trying for the boy. That, like, honestly, in my heart, there was never even a moment. It was just, and we were surprised every time. So when the babies come, you know, when they came, the doctor would hold the baby up and go, look, it's a girl again. But there was never a moment at that where just before that moment, I was like, oh God, I hope it's a boy. Not even for a second. Not even for a second. Well, what's so amazing, of course, is, you know, words have power.
Right.
This is something that is so true. Words have power. So just simply offhandedly throwing out, I want 10 kids, so many times, because we talked about it, you know, it wasn't just one, so I want 10 kids.
Right.
You know, it was probably, you know, 50 times, maybe 100 times. I kept saying it.
Wow.
So the universe created a situation where I've got 4 kids and she's got 6 kids.
Yeah.
We're twin flames.
Yeah.
Like,
He has to.
I've got my 10. Like, how in the world can that be explained? Okay,
Right.
You could explain that away as a coincidence. But when you then go down the list of the other 50 things we have, 100 things we have, it becomes unavoidable.
Yes, I know. Like, this is a really interesting story, like, about that. When I was pregnant, I made a list of names for my son, and one of the names was the name of my twin flame.
What?
I know. It's always been one of my favorite names, and it was like on the list. And I said to my now ex-husband, what about this name? That name of my twin? And he was like,
he knew. Energetically, he knew.
He was like, no. So what happened was, I think this was last year, I picked up an old notebook from like you know how you keep like just stacks of things? I just was like, I need a notebook to write in. I opened the notebook. It was from 15 years ago, the list of baby names. Because you know how I was like, I know I put his name on there. I know it's on the list, but you know, that was just my memory. When I saw that list, I was like, there it is. There's the name.
True.
Same name. And yeah, and his child is named almost exactly my name.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. So yes, Okolo, like you said, words have power. It's amazing. But was your 4th child a boy?
No, I have 4 girls.
Okay, got it. Wow.
And I had a marriage after my 2nd daughter. And so I have 2 daughters in a row. Then I had a miscarriage, and then I had another girl. And for some reason, when I first met his daughters, I really connected with the third one, and I felt like her energy was something that I'm familiar with, and I was wondering if her energy was the same as the one I lost, you know, because all our children are almost the same ages. Like he has a 17-year-old.
18, 17, 14, and about to be 13.
And I have a 16, 15, 13. Those are all girls. So it's like we were having kids around the same time. But the third girl, or the third one, I thought was a girl, you know, when I lost it.
That is very interesting. I have a video. It's going to sound really weird, but the name of it is Twin Flames Can Have Babies Together Without Meeting.
Okay, all right.
I think we have an instance.
Oh, we have a story. Now this is a crazy story. You want to tell it or me?
Well, I can tell you that when I was pregnant, maybe 4 or 5 months pregnant, an energy came into my room.
With her youngest child.
With my youngest
boy.
son.
With a boy.
And he is Haru.
His name is Haru.
Daniel Haru. And so there was an
So
energy.
just real quick,
Yeah.
if anyone doesn't know Egyptology, Haru is the son of the Egyptian Trinity. So there's Isis, Horus, and Osiris.
Right.
Isis, Horus, and Osiris.
Mm-hmm.
So Horus is the son in that Trinity. So
He's also Haru.
and so her son is Haru.
And he identifies with the sun god, or what's his name?
Amun-Ra.
Amun-Ra. So I was pregnant with my 6th child, my last one, and I told him that I felt an energy come into my room and wanted to be with me. And I was pregnant with that child. And so I allowed it to take place, but then I became afraid because I said, well, what is going on? You know, I was like, why? I felt like it was wrong, you know? And so I think it already happened, but I didn't experience my side of the pleasure or whatever it was. And so I said, well, it was already done, you know? And so I just made it stop, like, before I could feel really guilty about it. And but since we've been in Okolo's life, he's been telling me that he thinks my last son is really his child.
So
Send us the link to that video.
yeah, so it's on my channel. Yeah, so yeah, I will. So Patricia, you didn't tell him that story, right? Or is this right? Like Okolo, you were saying, I feel like that child is my child before you told him that story?
Story. Did you? Well, he told me that I don't know how it happened. How did it happen? I don't really remember.
I think she told me first, and I'm not going to speak anymore because no parent's allowed to have favorites, so we'll leave it there.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, no, but I get that story. It's like that thing happened to you, and then Okolo, you feel a resonance there. That's
even now, like he's like, I really think Daniel is my son spiritually. Like he says it over all the time, and
So here's the thing. On that video, it's on my channel, Stephanie Kraft, and then the video is called, in case anybody wants to search it, it's called Twin Flames Can Have Babies Together Without Meeting. So when you on that video, read all the comments. There are a lot of comments of people sharing these stories. And that is very interesting to hear, your story. I have a story about it. And then all these other people do too.
Right, yeah.
Wow, we will definitely check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. And so this is what I noticed, that a lot of twin flames meet and they each have children separately, and they have this connection with the child from their twin as if it's their own, or they feel it. Maybe they're not connecting in real life, you know, like that, kind of like how you're kind of separated at this point, eventually, you know, coming together more. But the point is, it's the feeling and the knowing that they have qualities that are so much more like the twin than their other parent. So it's very interesting to find that out, because what we're learning when we find out about twin flames is how spiritual it is, how this connection exists at the spiritual level. And then so can we notice how the connections with the family members are on that level too, connected to both of you.
Wow. We had no idea that was a thing.
Right. And I saw some of his oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead and then I'll share.
Well, I saw some of his daughter's baby pictures, and the oldest one, his daughters remind me of my daughters when they were that age, like the same head. I mean, they just look like, and I was just baffled. This is before, well, he showed me the pictures before we met in person. You know, they were like on his Facebook page or something. And I said, that looks like my daughter. And some of his daughters, like, they're almost parallel. They have, like, one of my daughters is exemplary in school. She's like A honor roll, like, and then he has one who's the same way, the oldest one. Both of our oldest children are exemplary in schools, you know. And then just different things that line up, you know.
Very interesting. Yeah, so the story that I share in that video is similar to yours, Patricia, but in a different way. Mine was I had this feeling, two times, that there was a man out there who was like in love with me, and it felt like I would meet him in the future. It's frozen, so I'll just wait till
yeah.
Okay, the video paused for a second there. So when that feeling and knowing of this, it was almost like his spirit came into my field, and I became aware of him and his love. And this, I should say this, I know this might sound weird, but I have two twin flames. And so I met the first one in 2012, and this is the one that I'm referring to. So not that it matters to anybody, because nobody knows who they are, but it's just, I want to be accurate. But he came into my field, and I felt this overwhelming love, and he really wanted a child. He really wanted a baby, and he really wanted a baby with me. But so it wasn't a sexual experience, but when he came in and that feeling came over me, then I felt an orb of and it was warm and entering directly into my womb, just like entering in, and I felt it. And it happened 2 times, and it was a very strong thing. Like, he came into my field filled with love, I desperately wanting to have a baby with me, and then whoom, that orb of light and warmth coming in. Well, I met him, and it was like about the day around, like maybe the day before I met him, he conceived a child with his wife. And that was like the day I met him, almost like the next day. And then 9 months later, when the baby was born, was the last day I ever saw him. I was going to see him for professional reasons. We had a professional relationship, but we weren't like together, right? So, but I had an awareness of what was going on. And then after she was born, she came to me in a dream to tell me that she was okay. There were some issues going on there, but when she came to me in the dream, she was around 12 years old. but she was letting me know that everything was going to be okay.
Wow, nice.
Wow.
Mhm.
So I was there for the entire pregnancy, from day one to the end.
Wow. And the significance, I don't know if I brought it out, but yes, since you said that, it did bring to mind the man who came into my space was Osiris. Osiris, and my son is Haru, so that's his child, you know. And so when I met Okolo, he told me about his connection to the sun and Egyptian. You know, he feels like he's like Amun-Ra, which is another, isn't it another version of Osiris? Well, how does that work?
The way I would describe it is many of these entities that we hear about, Jesus, Amun-Ra, Christ energy, Osiris, people incorrectly mistake these as like fables, or like Greek mythology is mythology. That's the word I'm looking for. What they don't realize, in my opinion, I don't have any proof of this, and it's not even something I've researched very much, but my feeling is these entities or these energies keep coming back to life. I mean, keep coming back to Earth.
Right.
For different purposes, and that energy might come back, and that energy might come back and be in India and might be known as Hare Krishna. You know, that energy might come back and be translated into the Greek and be known as Christos. You know, and in another one it might be known as Osiris, and in someplace else it might be known as Amun-Ra.
Right.
So
same energy though.
So it's that same type of energy. So when she was like, and I think she picked Osiris, that's what she translated it in her name, in her mind, because that's who she knew.
Right.
Like that was the entity who she knew.
Yeah.
She didn't know about.
It was one of those gods, and I was wondering why did he.
Well, I have to tell you a story. In about 2006, I got the book, The Law of One, and it's the teachings of Ra. And on the book, I know. And on the book, you know, cover, it says Ra, okay? And when I saw that word, it sent in a not in a bad way, but almost like a soul, not a soul shock, but like
Feeling it right now.
Like an incredibly deep like unbelievable connection. Just seeing the word, just seeing that word, so deep, so strong, so unbelievable and big, connected to me, that when I had a hypnotherapy session. I'm a hypnotherapist, but I had a colleague do a session for me. So I wrote out my questions. And in the type of hypnotherapy I do, it's called life, not only, but one of the kinds I do is called Life Between Lives Hypnotherapy. So you take the person into a past life and to the end of the lifetime, and then leave the body at the time of death so that they can go home into the spirit worlds, just how we naturally do. And in the spirit world, we can ask questions of the soul. So it's no longer Stephanie speaking, I'm channeling my actual soul. So in that session, I had given her my list of questions. I'm under hypnosis. My soul is speaking through me. She asks my question that I wrote, do I have a soul connection to Ra?
Wow.
And I almost don't. Should I say it? Okay.
Say
Okay. It's time for truth, right? Why hold back, right? It wasn't even me. It was my soul coming. It was so immediate. Okay. So what my soul said through me was, no, sorry, I have to get the question right because it's important. My question was, am I a part of Ra? And the answer that came out was, Ra is part of me. It took me 1 year to process that sentence, that concept. I couldn't I was like, wait a minute, how can I be bigger than that? I couldn't conceptualize or process the vastness of that. It took me a year.
Wow.
Until I could expand to get that. I still, and it's something like I don't think about. It's like, oh, that happened in 2006. I forgot all about it. I don't even think about that, but that happened. And then, and I don't know if it was in the same session. I think it might have been. She said, the question was, what is your soul name? And I don't know if it was in the same session or not, but it probably doesn't matter. But when she asked the question, I heard, it was a male voice, sing out into the universe my name. I still remember the melody or the harmony of it. And the first part of the name is Ra.
Right. Hold on, wait, I just messed something up. Whoops.
It's still recording, so it's okay. We'll wait.
Hold on, I'm so sorry. What is,
Don't worry, you'll figure it out. No rush.
Yeah. Okay, I think you're back. Okay, I'm so sorry. Most important part. Go ahead.
But yeah, so the name that she said, what was your soul name? And a male voice sung it out into the universe. And the first part of the name is Ra. There's 2 more syllables to it, but anyway, it's.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, do you mind sharing the rest?
The rest of the name?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I don't mind. I've never shared this before, but it's Rafia. Rafia. But it was pronounced Rafia. That was like how it sounded.
How he sang it, yeah.
He sang
well,
it.
Okolo, he has a strong connection, but sometimes he's afraid to talk about it because he doesn't know how to be accepted, you know. So when he said it, he's like, people might think he's trying to say he's God or something, you know. So
I want to address what she said, but I also want to address what you said. And you said, and it sort of sounded like you're still, like you're getting it and you embraced it, but it's still like, what?
Right.
This is how I think I would explain it to both of us. Like, I'm just going to start with, when I started my spiritual journey, my first stop was in Rastafarianism. And one of the first concepts within Rastafari that you learn is I and I. And so you always hear I and I, I and I, I and I. And I and I is you and me. I and I is myself. My and I is myself and the spirits inside of me. I and I is me and everyone else in the world. It's all of that. Like we literally are one.
Yes.
So
Right.
our soul, our real true being is all the same.
Yes. Yes.
And Jesus tried to tell us. He said, is it not written in your law that I said ye are God?
Right.
Within the New Testament. And then you go back and then you look at the Old Testament and it says, I said ye are God, all of you are children of the Most High. And then of course, and this is not to talk negatively about Christians, but they say, oh, well, that's a lowercase g. Well, okay, let's go to the Hebrew. The word is Elohim. It's a plural word. The I am or the Yod Mem on the end is a plural. And so then when you go back to the Genesis 1:1, it says, in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. So the Bible is telling us that God is plural. The Bible is telling us that we are God. The Bible is telling us that when we connect with our true selves, or as Imhotep said, know thyself. When we do that, we connect with the source, literally, and we realize there's no difference.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like when I was in the session, I thought I was going to connect with this part of my soul, but I ended up connecting with this part, and it's all one, but you expect to connect with the little part, and you don't realize that you actually are the other part too, the whole, the bigger, the vastness of it. And we don't think that way. Our minds don't think that I am God. Like, we know, some of us know, but here's the thing. God, whenever, or source, creator, whatever people call that, when I have seen people channel, and even I do channel it, God refers to themselves as we.
Yeah.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
Usually.
It's interesting, you said that the name came to you, so my story is, I won't get into the details, they're not necessary, but I was on my way someplace, and I was trying to decide, should I do something? Should I do X or should I do Y? And a voice, and the only way I can really describe it is a voice, and not a voice like an audible voice like you described, but I just heard this voice from outside of me say to me, do X, don't do Y. And I was like, okay, like, you know how you always have the monkey brain, that some people call it? You always are thinking and you're thinking and you're thinking. Like, I knew that wasn't it.
Right.
I knew it wasn't automatic monkey brain, and I knew that it wasn't me consciously looking and saying, okay, you know, this is pink. Like, it wasn't my conscious mind.
Right.
It was like a voice from out here came and said, that's pink.
Right.
So I said, wait, someone just spoke to me. Who are you? And again, without hesitation, Amun-Ra. So to continue the story, if I can, I can't believe I'm talking about this. He shows up sometimes, and the way that he speaks, he always speaks out loud. And I never speak to myself. I never speak out loud. So I will sometimes find myself saying something, but it's out loud, and that's how I know it's Amun-Ra.
Wow.
And so I said something out loud, and I was running. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go tell Tricia what just happened. And I was like, okay, I have to go tell her that Amun-Ra just said something to me, but I have to also tell her and sort of like pretend that I'm still Amun-Ra so that I can, like, you know, tell her something. I don't remember, but the thought came to my mind, you know, I have to pretend that I am Amun-Ra. And the answer that immediately came to me was, there is no difference. There is no distinction between Okolo and Amun-Ra. The only difference is that Okolo doesn't have that level of confidence.
And you and I had the same process. I mean, not the same process, but an experience of not even just conceptually being able to embody that. I mean, obviously we're human. We're not all of that. We are embodied with some of that. I mean, but you're saying there's no difference. So I stand corrected, because I still, like, you know, I'm just Stephanie Kraft, okay, at this lifetime. So but we're all, I guess, because, you know, how interesting is it that you contacted me out of the blue? We haven't been in contact for like years. And when I was watching your video, you mentioned a connection to Ra, and I was like, oh my God, you know, this is no mistake that we're having these conversations. Because, and there are other people. I know somebody, do you know David Wilcock? He had, his website is Divine Cosmos. He has a personal connection also with Ra. And so I think that some of us, are we all Ra? I mean, at some level, yes, but I think that, these beings, if that's what you want to call it, we're, if that's a being or that, and then there are a million people on the planet from that energy. I don't know. Am I making sense?
And well, think of it this way: when Jesus was on Earth, was everybody Jesus, or was everyone able to connect with Jesus? And they weren't connecting with the Jesus that was physically on Earth, if he ever was, but that's another story. But they were connecting, when they connected with Jesus, they were connecting with that source. The way that I hear it described a lot of times, and I think makes sense, is we are souls living a human experience.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I have a theory. I think the reason we struggle with this is because it's like a cognitive dissonance, because we were taught that whatever that being is so much higher than we are. So to elevate ourselves to be on the same level is almost like blasphemy, or,
right.
And so, like, I've had that experience too. I felt like I am a Christ energy. Like, and I would have, in my own understanding back then, something would tell me that I'm Jesus. Like, and this is weird. Like, why would I say that? And then in the description of myself, I would normally say, like, I am who I am. And that shows up in a different way a lot of times in the Bible or different religions, And so, but that's how, like, sometimes I can't fully wrap my mind around all that I am. So the easiest way to say it is by saying I am who I am.
Yes.
And it feels powerful, And the only reason I struggle with it is because of my upbringing, But so that's why it's important to get away from things that you were taught and to receive from the universe directly,
Yes, exactly. And I also have a strong soul connection to Jesus, and I've actually had past life regressions of being Jesus. So, but the thing is that, look at that, because I'm thinking Ra and Jesus, maybe it's one, it's one,
right?
It's incarnate.
It's an energy.
It incarnates there. And then now in this lifetime, it's incarnating in maybe everybody. And so that's an energy, it's a soul aspect, a soul essence that I've heard it through these my personal sort of spiritual experiences, that Christ is in every single person. So remember, I think Jesus said something about that too, like, I forget, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What guys, we just, we both are very well read on the Bible, but I don't immediately, I remember it, but I can't remember the verse.
Yeah, I know, I'm blanking on it, but it's something about, like, I am you, you are me, that type of thing. We're all one.
Me and the Father are one, I know was one of them, but you're right. Well, the one thing that I think it relates to what you're saying is, he said to his followers, I want you to do works as I do and greater.
Greater work, right?
I mean, how is somebody going to do something greater than Jesus? But Christians are running around praying to Jesus, and Jesus said, you go do things greater than I'm doing.
Yes.
Like, come on, folks, like, read the red letters, ignore Paul. Read the red letters. Anyway, sorry, that was
I say the same thing. I always say, Jesus said, these works and greater shall you do. So he was saying you are going to be doing that. And so we'll see, we will see that. We will.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So you also haven't, see, you're going to call me out. I'm going to call you out. Who are you?
Well, we've had some discussions.
She's going to call me out. She says, okay, so she called me out saying I'm Amun Ra. She's Mother Nature.
Oh my goodness. You know, that is so interesting because, okay, so I have like crystals, right? The one that I'm talking about is not here, but I decided just last week, I was like, you know what? I'm not one of those people who can pick up a crystal and feel the energy, right? But I was like, well, maybe I am. Let me try. So I'm going to pick up a crystal that's near me. I'm going to hold it in my hand and I'm going to feel, I'm going to let it tell me, and I'm going to feel, what is this crystal about? What does it do? And the one that I picked up was Mother Nature.
Really? What?
Yeah, last week, and I felt it. I felt like that. Just I felt her. It. Yeah.
Right.
So that's
That is-
you.
Nice to meet you, right?
This is a lot to digest. You know,
we know
it, but when we're telling other people, it's, I don't even think it's our job to convince them. I think we just live, and our life will be an example, you know.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, just about that story, that's what I got. But then I looked it up, and it was the one. It was the crystal that represents that the Mother Nature.
Wow.
The guy was accurate. That blew my mind. But
Wow.
It's funny when we blow our own minds. It's like, wait a minute, this stuff is real? I was just ending.
so then
Wow. Well,
yeah.
so it is nice to meet. We are pleased to meet another soulmate.
I know.
Yes.
Thank you. And Okolo, we've known each other since we were like 12.
Oh, and I didn't have an interest in this back then, but I certainly didn't know that you did or that you would.
I didn't either. And I only opened up, I had a spiritual awakening when I was 29 in the year 2000. So I was 10 years after you.
Wow.
And Patricia, you're Patricia Sunshine.
Right.
No, and she was Sunshine long before we met.
Right.
Okay, you guys.
If I don't know if you looked at any of my pages, there's a sun on every single freaking page.
No. And Patricia, you're the Mother Earth. So do you feel like, how does that feel or manifest in your life?
Well, you know, from the time when I was a really little girl, people have always come to me, like even grown-ups. I've always been friends with senior citizens, but people who do not deal with me on a regular basis would always still come to me for advice. How should they go about doing this? So I always felt like I'm a nurturer, and people look at me as a resource. I'm a healer. People come to me when they don't feel happy, you know. So it's just being in my presence, and I know that they get things from me, you know. And so at first, I guess when I first noticed the gift, I just did it freely, you know. But then there was a time in my life when I said, well, I don't make money off of this. So I said, well, what I'll do is start offering my services as a caregiver. And just being in my presence, these people will be healed, they'll meet their goals and things like that. And so that went on for a little while. But now I feel like I'm at a place where I just want to just put it on the internet and open my services up to people who are looking for new direction, advice, and just to give them, like what I want to work on now is quotes for the day. And I believe that each quote is inspired, and whatever I deliver is going to be for people who are in need of it, you know. And so it'll like something like a column where they can ask me a question, what should they do? And so that, and I've always loved nature. I've always played in the woods, and I'm just connect with it. And I feel like I'm re-energized just by going out into nature, like in the woods, putting my feet on the ground and absorbing and inhaling the air. It's like I've really become one. I am one. And so I need it. Like, it's not just a like or a taste or a desire. It's a necessity. I have to be in nature. And so it was just this year that it just came to me that I'm of the nature. And I reluctantly tell people, but it's on my Facebook page now. And so I gently eased it out there.
It takes time to come out with who we are, more because, of the world we live in. But I want to ask a couple of things. One is you started to sort of talk about what you're offering. How about you both tell us, because you're going to have listeners from my channel, your channel, what do you do, and is there anything you offer to people as a service, or is there any are there any websites or channels or anything you want to share?
Yes. So can I talk on this?
Sure.
I'm going to share a little something more with you guys. You already learned my biggest secret, so I'm going to share one of my smaller secrets that most people who know me know, so it's not a secret. I'm bipolar, and I was diagnosed as bipolar when I was 17, and I had my first manic episode when I was 15.
I was there. I remember.
Yeah. And someday we'll have to talk about that, because I have no idea what other people remember.
Right. I know that you probably don't remember what I experienced, and I don't have any, like, there's no hard feelings, and I understand that you were going through a hard time. And so it's sad. I mean, I was so glad to hear you when you said that you started on your spiritual path at 19, because that's so soon. I mean, we graduated from high school when we were 17, 18. So there you go. You very soon after you, I guess, started your recovery and healing process.
Well, the process still included 2 more manic episodes and maybe a couple depressive episodes. So, it wasn't perfect. Like I said, I've had my ups and downs. But getting to the point, one of the things that happens when you're manic is you have grandiose thoughts, grandiose ideas, and I remember very specifically, when I was 15, I was like, oh, I've got an idea. I'm going to go make $1 million by tomorrow. And I had this idea and I had this plan but when you're manic, there's no execution. There's thoughts, there's ideas, but you can't you literally, at least I couldn't get it done. People like Mozart, who were also bipolar, they could get it done. I couldn't get it done in that state. Martin Luther King was bipolar.
Wow.
So
they're going to help people.
So the idea, I had a really humongous idea, and I called it the circle. At that moment, that was long before my connection with Amun-Ra, long before my connection with the sun. And so anyway, so the idea was help people become whole. And so that means physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially. So we help people in all of those areas. And so within the circle, there's different parts of it or places of it. And the way I envision it in my head is, the circle is at the top. And that's what you might call the spiritual side. We both are actually ordained ministers, non-denominational, you might say. She grew up in Christianity. I grew up with no religion. Thank God. And as I said, started reading the Bible when I was 19, read the Bible, read the Quran, read the, just about every spiritual book that's out there. Not literally everyone, but I just kept reading and reading and reading and reading. So there's the Circle, there's Circle Financial, there's Circle Fitness, there's Circle Life Coaching. I created something called Your Biggest Dream. And I would always, for years, ask people, what is your biggest dream? What is your biggest dream? And I actually have cards made up, business cards with that. Anyway, the point is, our goal was to help people become whole, wherever they might need. And it happens to be that, and then she came up with Dreams Come True.
Like 15 years ago,
yeah.
Long before we met.
So I've got Your Biggest Dream, she's got Dreams Come True. So we've combined them now to be Your Biggest Dreams Come True.
And so we'll find out what a person's biggest dream is, and I will offer services to coach them into realizing it. So it's no longer just a fantasy for them. It's actually, okay, whatever their biggest dream is, and a lot of times I notice that it has something to do with their natural gifts and abilities and talents, using those things. And if it isn't, I want to help them use their natural gifts and talents and abilities to realize it, So somebody might want to be the CEO of a company. So I want to help them use all their natural abilities, I would say God-given gifts, to achieve that goal.
Nice. Beautiful. And so do you have a website or any websites or anything?
Yeah, that isn't. So the best place to go.
Well, we just come to.
Come to ours. Yeah, because we'll filter everything through there. EliteCouplesForLife.com.
Right.
That's the .com one, but we also have EliteCouples.org. So I know I just confused you, but go write it down. Elite Couples. I wasn't talking to you, Stephanie.
Yeah.
I was talking to the EliteCouplesForLife.com or EliteCouples.org. Right now, those are links to Facebook pages. We are really early in this process. Really, really early. We don't have our website. We don't have our social media strategy. We're like gathering team members. But now I actually have been realizing it this week, all the team members we need are going to come to us. Just like, what's her face? I don't remember her name, said in The Secret, in the movie The Secret. She said that all the people she needed just started like rushing towards her. Right. And that's the stage we're in right now.
Good. I know it's going to happen, and you're building it's like a magnet, it'll come to you. What do you think? Do you have any advice for twin flames or any kind of because you're
right, I'm going to go off script.
Okay.
I'm going to go off script. These questions were not we didn't decide them.
You don't have a script.
But most of what we talked about, well, actually, except for the whole who we are stuff, but I'm going to go off script, and what I'm going to say is there's still hope for you and your twin flame.
You're talking to
you, Stephanie.
Oh.
Now you can tell me no. You can tell me no. And I know why. You did tell me why. But the same way that you were focused on Ra here, and then Ra told you that you are Ra here, lots of things are hard for Ra here, because it's the human using the God within us to try to make things happen. So, so I've got to use this mantra, and I've got to write my goals down, and I've got to repeat them, and I've got to do this. That's the human using the Ra inside of us. But when you recognize that you are the Ra out here, right. Anything is possible.
Right.
Now, you might decide you don't want that. Cool. No problem.
It's funny because I thought the same thing. I didn't feel like I'm ready to, I don't feel like it's the end of that.
You know, but that's up to you.
Yeah.
But so my advice, generally speaking, if you are a twin flame, or you have lost contact with your twin flame, no matter how bad it was, unless there's a restraining order.
Oh, they're out there. Trust me.
Oh, I know. Shoot, there are multiple times she could have put a restraining order out on me. There are multiple times she said, "This is a toxic relationship. Get away from me." So I don't know if we've gotten it as bad as others have. Maybe we've gotten it worse. I don't know. But I would say just, you know, to the people out there who don't have connections with their twin flames, just say, you know what? The world's crazy right now.
Right.
I just want to reach out and see if you're okay.
Yeah. Well, what I would say is that also, whenever you are struggling with your twin flame, it's because you don't want to do the work. Or like maybe one of you might be further advanced in your work, like your soul work, but sometimes it's like we might have other things going on, we have other goals, we just don't have time for them. We don't even have time for the work, and we need to do it ourselves, you know. But the longer we take to do the work, the longer we're going to struggle with areas of our lives, you know, because your twin flame is only reflecting really the characteristics that are within you that you fail to deal with, you fail to heal or come up to. And so all of my problems with Okolo have been that I'm holding on to old ways, and I don't want to let them go because they were taking care of me. You know, those old ways were providing for me. They got me to where I am, and they're all I knew. You know, that's all I've ever known. And so everything he's ever tried was to pull me out of my old ways, which are very damaging anyway, you know?
And what she has done for me, and I'll never forget it, when I was a child, I actually said to myself, I'm never going to grow up. I'm going to be a kid forever. And words have power, and that's largely what I've done. You know, yes, I've been in my daughter's lives. You know, no, I've not provided for them in the manner in which I think I should have, that I would like to. You know, that's a whole story. But she really put up a mirror to me and say, look, this is what a man is supposed to be. This is what a man is supposed to do. You're not living up to it. Get your stuff together, or I can't be with you. And I was like, okay, there's a million reasons for me to step up and take care of myself and my family and my kids and her kids. And there's a million reasons, but it was like, okay, well, I got to do this now. I really have to do this now. Like, I can't be a father of 4 or 10 and live in a homeless shelter. Now, I was working, making basically minimum wage. Now, I've made money in my life. You know, I've had good salaries. I've had good corporate jobs. This is something I don't share a lot, but I had a good inheritance. Got manic, blew through $500,000. So I have had money. I have made money. I know how to, but I wasn't. So she really, the same way that I was really difficult on her in some of the things that I saw that I thought she needed to work on, you know. And you know, it's interesting. Everyone always, we had this conversation recently. Everyone always says, don't ever date anyone and try to change them. That's wrong. That's wrong. You change them to who you want them to be for you, and they will either change or they won't.
They will do it because they want to.
They will do it because they want to.
So it's like you don't lower your standard. You just speak what you want, tell a person what is important to you, and you have to be strong enough to walk away if they never rise to the occasion.
Yes.
And that's what I did. I had to let go a lot of substandard relationships in order to even be available to meet Okolo. You know, I had to just say, nope, this is not what I want. This is not good for me. And I had to let go of some good situations just so I can meet my twin flame, you know. So, but that's why we have to go within ourselves, and each person needs to be honest with themselves. What do you want? Who are you? You know, what is it that you stand for? And then once you figure those things out, stand by it and accept nothing less. You know, not even a pretty package like this. Don't accept it. Like, you need to get yourself together.
Yes. So here's the thing, about 90% or 85% of my clients, I would say, are women whose twin flame, you know, is a man and he didn't step up. Just like your story where, Okolo, you were like, you know, either I step up now or I lose this. But those guys, they run away in so much fear. They're so afraid, they feel unworthy, they're not ready. I know this because when I do sessions, I tune into the other person and I'm connecting to the person and the higher self. The higher self talks to me about all of it. I get that information from that side. And so what was it inside of you that how come you didn't run away in fear, unworthiness? I'm not ready, I can't do this. What made you do it?
Stubborn.
I'm an Aries.
Okay. That answers it. Yes.
But you know, I for me, I saw the vision, I saw the potential, and I saw the alternative. And I didn't want the alternative. Like, I didn't want to go introduce my daughters to somebody else. I didn't want to hide somebody else or somebody else from my daughters. I didn't want to date again. I didn't want to get into that whole pool. Like, I just didn't. And I also didn't, you know, whatever we were going through at that point was in my mind better than the alternative. I also hear what you're saying, that a lot of people aren't ready. Like, you have to understand, I've been doing, you know, to some degree, spiritual work for 30 years. You know, that includes reading and prayer and meditation and talking to people. And, you know, now we're sharing secrets. I'm going to share something and someone with you. I have a teacher. I have what people call a master teacher. I don't even quite know how to describe I just don't even know how to describe, like, you know, some people call him an extraterrestrial, some people call him an angel, some people call him Melchizedek, some people call him Yanun. Like, there's all these different names and different concepts and different things. But what I will tell you, let's just call him some black dude from Brooklyn, okay? He's just some black dude from Brooklyn, okay? He's got all these other names. Bottom line, he's some black dude from Brooklyn.
This is a guy who's alive.
Yes, he's alive.
Okay.
I was in a class with him. I couldn't have been more than 5-10 feet away from him. He was speaking and writing in Arabic, Aramaic, Hebrew, and Greek on the chalkboard like it was nothing.
Wow.
Like, that's what I personally witnessed. Then I have other stories. Here's other stories from people who say he would go up to people, any language they spoke, he would immediately be able to speak to them. Now, what the Bible says about speaking in tongues, if anyone who's truly studied the Bible, speaking in tongues is not blah, 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 fall on the ground. No, speaking in tongues on the day of Pentecost was his followers getting in front of everybody, and the people heard them speak in their own native tongue.
Right.
Yes.
So a lot of my influence has come from this person. At the same time, though, like she said, I'm the scientific type. I don't believe anything unless you prove it to me, unless there's evidence, unless you show me, unless I see it and experience it. That's why right now, extraterrestrials, could be, could not be. I've not seen one. Past lives, probably. I've had someone tell me a little bit about one of my past lives, so it's possible. Talking to the dead, I've had somebody, that same person, talk to my grandmother and tell me some things about her family, our family, and about herself and my family that this woman just could not possibly have known. So now I lost my train of thought.
She asked you to stop running, or what made you decide?
Oh, yeah, but I was so far off of that now. But anyway.
No, but it'll come.
Oh, so talking about, yeah. So at everything I read from him and everything I studied from him, I went and I checked him. So what his phrase always was, don't believe me, check it out. So I'd go check it out. Okay, well, he's talking about such and such and such and such about Egypt. Okay, let me check it out. Whoa, that's true? Okay, he's talking about such and such and such about, you know, America. Mm-hmm. And he's talking about, who are those folks, the big heads in Olmecs. You know, so he starts talking about the Olmecs and how they have African features and how they were the builders of the pyramids. They predated the other groups, anyway, that were there. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I'd go check it out, and it'd be true every single time. Every single time.
So how's he helped you not to run? Has he?
I think the point I was trying to make was the learning that the connection that I've had, or the learning that I've had. I don't know. I lost that connection. I'm sorry.
You know how you started it? You said, you know, I'm gonna share my story or reveal something about myself. That was how you started. So I'm hoping to spark a memory.
So there's a lot of different stories. There's a lot of discrepancies. And again, I'm one of those people, I need to see the proof and I need to see the truth. And the reason I'm sort of hesitant to talk about this person is because he is now sitting in jail for, I think, 300 years for child molestation.
Which may or may not be true, because you know how they like to capture these people of wisdom.
Correct. So it could not be true, and it could be at a COINTELPRO attempt, because, you know, the same way they did with the Black Panthers, the same way they did with the Nation of Islam, the same way they did with Martin Luther King, you know, we now have a declassified, we now know what has been done to Black community and other communities. Like, it's now fact in the record what's been done. Now, are we to believe that it only ever happened in the 60s and they stopped doing it? So there's a possibility he was set up. I'm also open enough to the idea that there's one possibility that his background, well, I'm open to other possibilities, let's say. But what I will say is none of that, in my mind, changes the teachings that he was giving. The fact that he was sitting up there speaking Arabic, and the fact that I learned a good part of the Quran from him, and that I'm able to recite it, you know, so quickly and easily. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Rahmanirrahim. Maliki Yawmuddin. Wa yakna dina wa yakna nasta'in. Adina siratul mustaqim. Siratul walidina anamta alayhim. Khairu maghdubi alayhim. Waladolin. Ameen. And of course, prayers end in the three monotheistic religions with Amen, Amin, which all tie back to Amun. So.
And why didn't you run away from Patricia? Why didn't you?
What do you say?
Why didn't you run away from Patricia? That was my question.
You're right.
See, when stream of consciousness comes, it speaks without. Anyway, yeah. I didn't run from Patricia because the alternative was not acceptable. That I knew that we were destined to figure this out. Like, our destiny was bigger than our fights and arguments. Yeah. That's the to pinpoint the reason our destiny was bigger than our fight.
Yeah, well, you two are an example for the world of twin flames who have been faced with challenges. I mean, you talked about them today. They're not small, and you are together, and you're not still going through phases of fighting and separating at this point, right?
No, not separating. But they're getting less frequent.
Yeah, and I don't mean of course everybody's going to fight, but I mean this to the point of the separation is what I meant. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know we're stuck with one another. So I said, you know what, we might as well make it pleasant. You know, if we're going to be together, and let's not stress one another out, you know, because we want this to be a healthy relationship, and we can voice our differences and opinions and desires, but we don't have to take it to a level where it's like we feel like, okay, I've crossed the line, you know. So it makes us, when we commit to one another, it definitely makes us figure out how to work together.
Yes, yes, good. Are there any other last things that you want to share or ask or talk about?
Well, there is one thing about twin flames that I've noticed from the beginning as well, that especially us and all the descriptions of twin flames and their interactions, that we've been so like drawn to one another, and I almost forgot my train of thought, but where we made a decision to be committed and only to be monogamous from almost the first day we met. Well, first I was deciding that I was going to be a polygamist. Like, I was ready to venture out and, you know, look at some communities and so be one of many wives. And when I met Okolo, he was still doing his thing, you know.
The way I would describe it is, I was doing my thing, and if I ever did settle down, it probably would have ended up being in a polygamous relationship, you know, because the first teachings that I had were based in Islam after Rastafarianism, and of course, Islam allows you multiple wives. So, you know, we were sort of both at that point.
Yeah, we were both thinking that way, but somewhere before even the first meeting that we had with one another in person, we decided we only want to be with one another. So it made us change our outlook. We no longer felt like we needed to be part of some community that's expressing themselves in some type of way. We felt like we could get what we need from one another, you know, and that's important. It's like there's a saying that says, you know, when twin flames find the other, we just become engulfed and wrapped up in just love and relationships and just wanting to be together, spending every moment together, and nobody else. Like, there are no other options. We don't want another option, you know? And so that's one thing that keeps me from going anywhere else. I'm like, I don't want to be connected to any other man ever again. You know, I don't want there to be another number on my list. Like, the buck stops here. And we verbalize that to one another, and we have that desire. Like, I don't want anybody else. I don't have a need for anybody else.
And yes, our number is just about the same.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what it is.
That's so weird. We're like, we don't want any more numbers.
That is so interesting about the numbers being almost the same. And I know you guys said yesterday you're both Aries. You're the same sign. So interesting.
Right.
Yeah. No.
The last thing is this has been a journey between us, and then from when I was 19 to get here, and then from when I was born to get to 19. It has been a journey. And this is something we've talked about possibly doing, you know, a broader show on.
Mm-hmm.
But the carnage along the way, it hurts me. The carnage that I have created, that she's created. You know, three broken marriages between us. Kids, you know, not living with both parents. You know, I had this idealized, you know, my parents were never married, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get married once, never get divorced. You know, I'm going to do it right. You know, made it 10 years, but didn't make it forever. You know, so I hate to end on a negative note, but you know, the one thing I would say is you know, I have to also, I think we have to sort of forgive ourselves for that. And I'm actually in the process of trying to figure out a 12-step program for, I'm not sure who or what, but I know that there's a 12-step program for Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. But there needs to be some kind of anonymous something or other where, you know, there's some kind of amends or apologies or something, because that's part of both of those 12-step programs. You know, I know because in the shelter, the NA guideline is up, and I used to read it all the time.
Yeah, so basically,
so I'm figuring out,
like reconciliation for relationships, you mean? Like a 12-step program that's healing for relationships? You mean like for...
or yes, something.
Yeah. People that we hurt along the way to get here.
I was specifically thinking of it in my, the way I was thinking of it was like if you've got Alcoholics Anonymous and NA, then you might also have one for mental illness. And I've been searching for something like that, and I don't know if something like that exists. So if anyone knows of it, let me know. But that's what I was first thinking of, was because so much of what the carnage, I think, was mental health related. And I try not to use that as an excuse. But it is a factor.
Oh, I think it's important to bring it up and talk about it, because then it brings understanding, hopefully, for people to understand why, you know, like it's, and because if you can explain the mental illness and say people, you know, who are bipolar act out in these ways, these are the typical ways they act out, but and then when it's under control, you know, this is what it looks like. So that way people can have an understanding, and of course compassion, forgiveness can come along with that. And when I said sort of 12-step program for relationships, I meant kind of exactly what you're talking about, which is the carnage that happened because of the mental illness. It sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, wanting to repair those
relationships. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And one other thing that people might not know about twin flames is that both of them could already be in a relationship with someone else, you know, when you meet. But I always say it's an overpowering need and desire to be with that person. And so that can look a little messy sometimes, you know, because if you are the same person, then there's going to be a deep desire to be with them. And so I don't know anyone's marriage who's been destroyed because of the twin flame relationship, but I know that twin flames meet and they can be married, and it trumps relationships, in my opinion, like what I've seen.
That's what I've seen too. About probably 90% of my clients, one or both are have been in or were, are in relationships when they meet their twin flame. And you're absolutely right. Like, and for all of them, they say, you know, the love and the connection and the intensity of the bond with their twin is just so much bigger than with their spouse, that their spouse becomes somebody that they almost have a hard time having like strong feelings for, because of that intense love with their twin.
Right.
I have a story about that. When I was married, so I said I had two, but the second one I met in 2014. That's my main twin flame. Because the first one ended abruptly and like it was over. It's kind of weird how that happened, or kind of amazing, because a lot of times people can't get over their twin, and I thought I would never, but I somehow did very quickly. Anyway, that's beside the point. But when I was married, this was like, 10 years before I met, well, not 10, but like 8 or 9 years before I met my twin. I was feeling him coming again. This man was coming into my field. This was not the baby one. This was the second one. And it was like this love, like this person is out there. And he was coming into my dreams. I was having regular dreams with him. He was my partner in my dream, standing next to me always, usually. And I never saw him, but he was there. And then like every year it would change to like, now he's standing in front of me. And then the next year we hugged, like, it was like getting closer and closer, but he was always showing up. But when I was married, I remember him coming to me and feeling that love and knowing he was out there. So it's interesting. I wasn't married when we met because I had already gotten my divorce, but it's interesting because I had this feeling. I didn't get divorced because I thought there was some man out there, but looking back, it was like,
Right.
I did know that there was a man out there. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
But both of you were single when you met.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
Technically.
So I've been in a relationship where I think I was separated longer than I was married. I actually tried to make it work lots of times. Like I was separated more than 8 times, I think. And all 3 of my sons were born while I was separated from their father. So I've been in, since I come from a really religious background, I think that has something to do with the 2 of us, like not wanting to dissolve the marriage, or it's just a struggle, and my children, they all, having the same father. And it's just, I don't know, it's been, but we have psychologically, like, the marriage been over, And so, yeah.
There you are. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Not yet.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, is that better than before or worse?
Better.
That's a better?
Better.
Okay, well, you're softer now. Oh, I bet you the sound is off. Okay, well, let's try this.
Yeah.
I think we're almost done anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I didn't have to choose between him and Okolo because I was not with him.
Yeah.
And it's just been something that was unresolved. Like, so gotta take care of it eventually. But even he cried when I explained to him the type of relationship Okolo and I had. He said, "You're so lucky that I've never experienced that with anybody," and it made him want to have that experience. Like, he didn't experience it with me, and so we just did something as young people growing up in a religious setting where you just got married because so you wouldn't be, doing things, whatever. You just got married because everybody else around you were getting married. So, he feels like it was not really something that he would have done had he known. And so it's like, well, we're just going to be okay with that. And we'll take care of that when we can. But
he knows the relationship Okolo and I have. And he knows that it's more than just physical boyfriend and girlfriend. It's deep, you know.
Yes.
So we do have plans to get married, but obviously there's some things that we need to just work out.
Of course.
Clean up. That's the word.
It takes time. I mean, nothing is.
Don't worry, that was not a Rona cough.
I know we have to be so careful nowadays. Oh, I didn't cough. Yeah.
Oh, and I can't hear you at all.
Really?
I heard her say really.
We're gonna we'll wrap it up.
A little bit. Anyway,
we can say goodbye. We've been doing this for 2 hours.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I think
I'm going to say that I had no idea we were going to touch on the topics that we touched on.
Of course, and neither.
I no idea. And I want to say I appreciate you being willing to share what you've shared and willing to share it first and foremost with us. And then your desire to share it with us opens up your willingness to now share it with the world.
Yeah,
thank you.
People will take it how they can, and you're welcome. And thank you too for opening up and sharing what you've shared too.
You're
welcome.
Think
it's really
thank
good
you
for the world. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think we should go because we can't really hear you.
Okay.
But this is Okolo.
This is Patricia Sunshine.
Elite Couples.
For life.
And this is Stephanie Kraft, a long time friend of mine, and I'll let her do the sign off.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for watching. And again, it's stephaniecraft.com and Okolo and Patricia. Thank you so much. It was so much fun.
Bye. Thank you. And we're elitecouplesforlife.com.
Great. Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
You too.